Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. Her fingers locked around my wrist as I moved lower. For a second, I thought she was teasing me again. I am Jake and I am 24 right now. That night I was sure I understood this woman beside me. Looking back, I know I had no clue what line I crossed. She did not smile or flirt back or play along. Her grip stayed tight until I froze above her legs. "Hey, are you okay? Why are you looking at me like that?" My voice came out light and joking while my stomach jumped. She swallowed hard before any answer, and I felt something shift. "I am fine, just do not go there, please." Her hand slid away, but her shoulders stayed stiff under me. The words sounded small against how tense her whole body felt. I could have backed off right there and asked gently. Instead, I heard danger and somehow translated it into challenge. "You know you never do that for me, right?" The words jumped out before I could stop them at all. I heard my tone, needy and sharp, and hated it immediately. It still felt true, which somehow made it worse to admit. She pushed my chest and sat up like she needed distance. "Why are you making this a thing right now?" Her knees pulled toward her while she watched the floor between us. "Because it already is a thing, and you pretend it is not." I heard how I sounded, like some bitter guy on a forum. I still kept going because I wanted to win this. "I do everything else with you, and you shut down at this." I was not yelling, but my words felt heavy and tight. In my head, I was arguing for balance and fairness and effort. On her face, I saw fear first, then something like anger building. I should have noticed that mix and shut my mouth right there. "You are not owed that just because we are together." She was shaking now, and her voice kept catching between words. "I know that. I am not saying you owe me anything." I was absolutely saying exactly that, even while I denied it. "You just never even try, and I feel stupid for wanting it." Her eyes went glassy, and I finally felt my stomach drop. "This is not about you feeling stupid, can you understand that? Then tell me what it is about, because I really do not get it." I leaned closer like the right angle would unlock a hidden answer. She pulled back even farther and wrapped her arms around herself instead. "Last time I went there, it was not my choice at all." The sentence dropped between us like something heavy and invisible and sharp. I heard the words and my brain still grabbed the wrong part. "So someone was a jerk before, why does that mean never again?" I asked that out loud because I was too far gone already. Her mouth opened then closed, and she looked smaller on the bed. "You are not listening, you just want that thing and nothing else matters." That stung because it was true in that moment more than anything. I dragged my hands over my face and tried to slow down. "Say more then, please, because I am trying here even if I suck." She laughed once with no humor and wiped at one eye quickly. "You joke about this all the time like it is some scoreboard thing. Every time you ask, I feel like I am back there helpless again." The word again slid past me because I was stuck on back there. I did not know where there was, and I hated that gap. I reached out and touched her arm, and she flinched in place. That tiny jump scared me more than any angry words from her. "Okay, I am backing off, we can stop everything now if you want." I meant it kind of, but my voice sounded wounded and cold. She caught that tone instantly, and her shoulders crept higher like she braced. "You are not the one who had someone ignore no and keep going." She finally looked right at me, and it felt like a test. I could have passed it by saying nothing and just holding her close. Instead, I opened my mouth and let more fear talk for me again. "So what, we just never do that because some guy was trash." The second I heard myself, I wanted to drag the sentence back. It was too late, and I watched the door and her eyes slam shut. She swung her legs off the bed and grabbed her shirt without looking. I stayed frozen there, half covered and suddenly very aware of my own body. This was the exact moment where everything between us started to tilt. "I am going home, I cannot be here right now with you." Her hands were shaking so much she almost dropped her bag at the door. I wanted to stand up and stop her and apologize and fix everything. My pride glued me in place because I still felt wronged somehow. The door clicked behind her, and I finally understood I had started something huge. My phone lit up the next morning before my alarm. Her name on the screen, one short message under it. "Can we talk later?" No heart, no emoji, just those 4 words and a period. It felt like a verdict waiting for my answer. Yeah, of course. I typed it too fast, erased it, typed it again slower. There was this stupid urge to add a joke or a smile. I left it plain and hit send with my jaw clenched. The bubble disappeared and I had nothing to do but wait. I spent the day replaying every second from the night before. Not the way I should have either. I kept scanning for the exact moment I looked worst. Part of me hunted for proof that I was not that bad. I already knew how that mindset would screw me later. By the time she arrived, my place felt wrong and stiff. I had straightened the bed, tossed laundry into a corner, paced. I heard her keys in the lock because she still had a copy. For a second I hoped she would walk in smiling like usual. She stepped inside, hesitated, and closed the door carefully behind her. Hey. Her voice was almost normal, which somehow unnerved me more. She kept her distance, dropped her bag by the chair instead of hugging. I asked if she wanted water just to fill the air. She shook her head and looked toward the couch like it was neutral ground. We sat with a whole cushion between us, knees almost touching. I grabbed the remote and turned on some random show for background. She watched the screen for maybe 3 seconds, then clicked it off. We cannot pretend nothing happened last night. Her hand stayed on the remote like she needed something to hold. I know. The words came out flat, not nearly enough for what I felt. I told her I was sorry for pushing things. Even while I said it, another thought whispered, but I just asked. She noticed that hesitation on my face and focused in on it. You are sorry I got upset or sorry you pushed? Her foot bounced a little, barely tapping the floor. I opened my mouth with some neat explanation ready. Nothing sounded right once I imagined hearing it out loud. I swallowed and tried again without the rehearsed version. I am sorry I made you feel cornered. I am sorry I kept talking after you said no. That part was true even if my chest still felt cheated. Her shoulders loosened a fraction, like I had passed level 1. I could tell a harder question was coming next. Do you actually understand why that hit me so hard? She leaned in a bit, eyes locked on mine. I wanted to say yes immediately to look good. I forced myself to sit in the discomfort for a second. I honestly do not think I fully get it yet. She blew out a breath and pinched the bridge of her nose. When I say I do not want to do that, I mean it. It is not me playing games or trying to keep power. It is my body reacting to something that felt like a trap. Every time you joke about it, I feel that trap again. I flinched at the word joke because that had been my shield. I would make some dumb comment, aim it at the air. If she bristled, I could pretend it was nothing serious. Under that, yeah, I wanted the thing badly and often. Hearing it laid out like that made me sound like a creep. So this is about your ex, right? The word ex left a bitter taste I could not hide. Her mouth tightened and she glanced toward the window, then back. When you say it like that, it sounds small and manageable. It was not small for me when it happened. I shifted on the cushion, knees brushing hers by accident. She did not move away, but she did not relax either. He would keep asking until I felt stupid for refusing. If I still hesitated, he would sulk or sleep somewhere else. Eventually I stopped saying no because it did not matter. I felt a hot spike of anger toward this faceless guy. Another voice in my head whispered that I was different. I would never force you, you know that. She stared at me like she was measuring that claim carefully. He never thought he was forcing me either, that is the problem. The room went quiet again, heavy with that line. My brain scrambled for some clever way to distance us. I am not him though, I listen when you say stop. She gave a short laugh that sounded more tired than amused. You listened only after you argued for 10 minutes last night. That landed harder than I wanted to admit in front of her. She was right and I hated how right she was. I tried to explain what was swirling in my chest. When you shut down around that stuff, I feel unwanted. It feels like you want me in pieces but not completely. Her eyes softened for a second, then sharpened again. I do want you, that is what makes this even harder. When you touch me there, everything in me froze up. Not because of you as a person, because of the act. My body hears the request and runs back to those moments. I wanted a timeline, a clear map, a fix. The part of me that loves lists kicked in hard. We can figure out steps, like easing into it slowly. You can choose when, control the pace, stop if uncomfortable. I started outlining it like some project plan on a whiteboard. Her expression changed from pained to almost offended as I spoke. I am not a task you can schedule until the bar fills. If we do anything close to that again, it has to be mine. My idea, my timing, my choice, not a reward you earned. If you keep treating it like a missing feature, I cannot stay. That last word hit like a bucket of ice to the chest. Stay suddenly felt like an unstable thing, not a given. I rushed to reassure her before she could pull away again. I am not trying to treat you like some checklist girlfriend. I just do not know how to stop feeling like I lost something. She lifted my hand and placed it against her cheek. Her skin felt warm and slightly damp from earlier tears. This is not about you losing a service, it is about me. I lose myself when I pretend I am okay with that. I need you to care more about me being whole than satisfied. I wanted to promise that instantly, no hesitation. Some selfish part of me still screamed about fairness and effort. I heard both voices and hated that they were equal volume. I managed to nod because words felt dangerous in that moment. She studied my face, trying to decide which part of me was winning. If you stay with me, you might never get that from me. Her thumb ran over my knuckles, slow and careful. Not because I do not love you, because my brain panics. Are you actually okay with that long term or just today? Do not answer fast because I will believe whatever you say. My mouth formed an automatic yes before I could stop it. I clamped it shut and forced myself to actually consider it. Images flashed up, half from movies, half from my own fantasies. They clashed with the woman in front of me shaking like this. I realized both pictures could not exist together without someone getting hurt. I do not know yet. The words tasted awful, but at least they were true. Her eyes flickered, both grateful and wounded at the same time. Thank you for not lying just to keep things calm. That honesty scared me more than any fake promise would have. We sat there for a long minute listening to the building around us. Cars outside, someone walking down the hall, a door somewhere closing. My brain kept jumping ahead, imagining fights we had not had yet. Resentment building in me, guilt rotting her from inside out. I could see exactly how this would explode if we shoved it down. She pulled her hand away first and reached for her bag. I thought she was leaving again and my chest tightened. Instead, she dug out a crumpled business card and offered it. I am starting therapy next week, they specialize in this stuff. I am doing that for me, not to unlock anything for you. I turned the card between my fingers, reading the print slowly. A part of me relaxed knowing someone else would help her carry this. Another part wondered what happened to couples who never solved it. Do they just live around that missing piece forever or split? That question lodged in my throat and would not move. She stood and looked down at me, jaw set but eyes kind. I am not asking you to decide everything today. I am asking you to stop turning my trauma into a negotiation. No more jokes, no more hints, nothing until I say otherwise. If you cannot do that, it is kinder to end this now. I promised I could, almost too quickly, then slowed myself. Okay, I can do that, I will do that starting now. She nodded once, like she was stamping the moment in her memory. Then she leaned down and kissed my forehead instead of my mouth. That small, careful kiss felt more conditional than any word she used. After she left, I stared at the card again in the quiet. My thumb pressed into the raised ink until the skin reddened. I wanted someone to tell me I was not a monster for wanting things. I also wanted someone to smack me for even thinking that today. That craving for outside judgment is what pushed me toward Reddit later. I opened Reddit on my phone before brushing my teeth. The icon sat there like a dare I pretended not to notice. My finger hovered above it, dropped anyway, and the app launched fast. I knew opening it instead of texting her first already meant something. I still told myself I was just killing time before work. I went straight to the search bar and typed relationships. A whole list of subs popped up and my pulse kicked harder. I picked the biggest one because I wanted a loud answer fast. If I was going to expose us, I wanted a crowd watching. That part alone should have told me what kind of mindset I had. Next came the title box, staring at me like a blank dare. My thumbs started moving before my brain fully caught up with them. Girlfriend refuses oral because of past experience. Is this reasonable long term? I read it twice and liked how calm and balanced it sounded. It stripped out the shaking and the crying and the part about therapy. I deleted refuses and tried avoids, then switched back because it felt stronger. I added long term at the end because that sounded mature and serious. I did not write that I had pushed after she said no. I did not write that she had begged me to stop joking. Even in that tiny box, I was already editing the villain out. Then I opened the body field and everything rushed out in chunks. I typed about how we had an amazing connection in every way. I mentioned that intimacy between us was great except for this one issue. I wrote that she had some history with a pushy ex involving that. I framed it like a puzzle to solve, not a wound to protect. I glued in lines about supporting her therapy and being patient and kind. I made sure to repeat that I would never force anyone into anything. I called myself understanding 3 different ways without even noticing the pattern yet. I only gave one sentence to the part where she left my place. It sounded neat and tidy, like a minor disagreement before a movie night. For a second I hovered over the delete button and considered bailing. Posting meant admitting to strangers that my partner did not want something sexual. It also meant maybe hearing that I was overreacting and should relax. That second part pulled harder than my guilt, no surprise looking back now. I hit post, locked the screen and tossed the phone on the bed. I tried to get ready for the day like nothing big had happened. Pulled on clothes, brushed my teeth, went through the usual tired motions. Every couple of minutes my eyes drifted toward the bed like a magnet. I grabbed the phone again before even finding my shoes by the door. The notification badge already showed new activity, and my throat went tight. The first reply was short and almost polite, which soothed me a little. Dude, she has trauma, stop making this about your disappointment right now. I rolled my eyes and told myself they had not really read it. They did not know how long I had gone without that kind of thing. I closed that comment and scrolled down looking for someone reasonable. Another response popped up with more words and a colder tone underneath. If you were actually supportive, you would not be counting this like points. They quoted my line about worrying if this would be forever for us. Seeing my own words highlighted like that punched through my first wave of defensiveness. I had written forever like a sentence, not like a promise to her. More comments stacked under those, each one harsher than the last batch. Why are you focusing on your frustration when she is clearly terrified? If my partner posted my trauma online, I would be gone immediately. You are not asking a question, you are shopping for validation for pressure. My thumb kept scrolling even as my stomach turned harder with every swipe. I found one message that did not call me entitled in the first line. They asked a couple of direct questions instead, which hooked me right away. Does she know you are posting this, or are you hiding it? Have you considered that describing her history here is another form of pushing? I stared at that last sentence long enough for the screen to dim twice. I replied to that one before thinking because I wanted to sound balanced. No, she does not know, I am just trying to understand my feelings. I added a line about being scared of resentment building on both sides. I hit send and watched for the 3 dots even though this was not chat. I wanted whoever wrote it to answer and absolve me somehow. Their answer landed faster than I expected and did not soften anything. You can explore your feelings without broadcasting her worst memories to millions. If I were her, this would feel like a fresh betrayal on top. You admit she refused and cried and still frame this as a sex question. My face burned like I had been caught cheating on a test. I kept digging, looking for that one shining comment that would defend me. There were a couple that tried to play both sides and sound nuanced. One mentioned needs not being compatible and maybe considering the relationship's future honestly. That one gave me a tiny hit of relief, like sipping water after liquor. I clung to it and ignored the wave of blunt verdicts under it. Then came the big wall of judgment that always hits those kinds of posts. A top response had hundreds of upvotes and started with 3 letters only. YTA. The rest broke down my entire story line by line like a review. They pointed out every part I had smoothed over or twisted to look better. You minimize her reaction into a disagreement and call her history something. You talk more about your dry spell than her panic and dissociation. You keep saying you will not force her while planning strategies to change her. Your girlfriend deserves someone who treats her boundaries as real, not challenges. Each sentence read like someone had been in the room with us last night. I wanted to slam back a detailed reply about how caring I really was. Explain the therapy card, the forehead kiss, the way I held her afterward. Then I realized none of that had actually happened the way I remembered. She had left uncertain and I had grabbed my phone instead of her. There was nothing comforting about that timeline once I laid it out straight. Another comment C. Amen from someone who mentioned their own history with coercion. They wrote about a partner who kept asking until no felt pointless and exhausting. They described laughing nervously while freezing inside whenever certain things were mentioned at all. They said reading my post made their skin crawl because it sounded familiar. I sat there breathing shallow while my thumb hovered over the exit button. I almost closed the app right then and pretended I had never posted. Instead, I scrolled to the bottom like I needed every ugly word. Someone asked what would happen if your girlfriend read this entire thread tonight. No insults in that one, just that single question hanging there heavy. My mind instantly pictured her voice reading my phrasing out loud in our living room. I imagined her seeing strangers dissect the worst parts of her life. Not in a support group, in a gossip arena with upvotes and jokes. I imagined her recognizing details about our bedroom and our arguments from my version. She would know instantly that it was me, no matter the fake account. That thought did more damage than every YTA piled up together on screen. For a second, I moved to delete the whole thing and disappear quietly. My thumb hovered over the options menu until my hand began to cramp. If I wiped it now, the harsh comments would vanish with my shame. Nobody out there would remember, and I could pretend I had learned quietly. The problem was, the lesson depended on keeping the mirror there a bit longer. So I backed out of the options, left the post alive, kept reading. I watched the vote count climb and the judgments settle into a clear pattern. Almost nobody thought I was right, or even halfway justified by frustration. The few neutral takes still called it a compatibility problem, not a fairness one. Not a single person called her dramatic, which had been my first private reaction. By the time I finally locked the screen, my hands were shaking hard. I dropped the phone on the mattress and stared at the ceiling, breathing fast. Part of me wanted to throw the device out the window forever. Another part wanted to log back in, argue with every stranger until I won. Neither part wanted to think about what would happen if that link reached her. My phone buzzed on the table and her name filled the screen. I almost ignored it because I was still dodging the comment section. The preview showed only a link and 3 words. Is this you? For a second I hoped it was some meme or article, then my gut already knew. I tapped the notification and my own title stared back at me. Same wording, same stupid calm phrasing about long-term and reasonable. Underneath, hundreds of responses stacked like a crowd yelling at once. At the top of the chat, her typing bubble flickered on and off. I watched it appear and vanish 3 times before any message landed. Come downstairs. Nothing else. No emoji, no questions, just that order with a period. I grabbed my keys even though I did not need them. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped the phone on the stairs. She waited by her car with both arms folded tight. Her phone was already unlocked, my post blown up on the screen. She did not walk toward me or smile or even nod. She just held the device up like a piece of evidence. You wrote this. My mouth opened, closed, opened again with nothing useful coming out. I recognized phrases before I recognized my own account name. Every careful spin I had put on that story hit me fresh. It sounded worse now that it had her voice on top. I felt heat crawl up my neck while the rest of me went hollow. You talked about my worst stuff like it was a product review. Her thumb scrolled once and her jaw clenched harder. You told strangers I avoid things because of some past experience. She emphasized my quotes like they tasted bitter, even saying them out loud. Do you hear how tiny and cheap that makes it sound? I reached out a little, then let my hand drop halfway. I was trying to get perspective, I was confused and scared. The excuses sounded rehearsed even to me, like I had practiced them. She laughed once short and sharp, then wiped under one eye quickly. You were scared you would miss out on a sex act, say it. That punch landed exactly where she aimed it. I stared at the ground between our shoes because eye contact felt impossible. I was scared this gap would just grow and wreck us later. I finally forced the words out slow so I would not dress them up. I did not think about what sharing your story would actually feel like. She stepped closer and pushed the phone into my chest. Read the top comments. Her voice had that controlled shake that means someone is barely holding it together. I glanced down and saw the big judgment everyone had voted up. Your girlfriend deserves better than a man who treats her trauma like a pole. My throat locked around the word trauma because I had never typed it. I had called it history baggage, past experience, anything but that. Seeing the real word fixed on the screen made it harder to dodge. She watched my face, waiting to see if anything in me actually shifted. I did not even give them your consent before I shared that stuff. You did exactly what he used to do. Her voice cracked on that last word and she bit it back quick. Take something that broke me and hand it to other people to discuss. She paced once along the curb, fingers digging into her own shoulders. I told you he bragged and your brain heard free story material. That is not what I was thinking. It came out fast, defensive, like a habit I had practiced for years. She stopped pacing and turned toward me slow, eyebrows raised. You wrote about me crying in your bedroom with jokes on top. When I said I felt helpless, you turned it into content for applause. I blurted the first question that popped into my stupid panicked head. How did you even find it? She blinked at me like she could not believe that was my focus. Someone from a support group messaged me the link this morning. They recognized the details and thought I already knew. I didn't. That detail hit harder than the online insults somehow. People who carried similar damage had read my post before she did. They had connected the dots faster than the person living beside me. I imagined them whispering to each other, wondering if she was safe. Meanwhile, I had been worried about upvotes and clever phrasing. You know what scared me most? She finally stepped into my space and looked straight at me. You called yourself patient and supportive more than you described my fear. Her words came out steady now, which made them cut deeper. You wanted them to praise you for tolerating my reactions. I remembered typing those lines, choosing synonyms that made me sound generous. Back then it felt honest, like I was highlighting my good qualities. Now it looked like I was stacking a resume for a stranger panel. I wanted confirmation that I was not totally out of line. That does not excuse anything. I do not even know. She took the phone back and scrolled farther down the thread. Did you read the survivors in your comments? She turned the screen again so I could not dodge it now. Messages describing their own partners ignoring no, laughing, guilt-tripping afterward. They saw themselves in you, not in me, do you get that? My chest felt tight, like there was a band locked around it. I kept hearing my own cheerful tone when I wrote great connection otherwise. I get that I sounded more worried about my frustration than your safety. Saying it out loud made my legs feel weak enough to wobble. I hate that I did that, but I still did it. She studied me for a long beat, eyes searching for something real. Do you understand why this is not just an online mistake? I nodded too quickly, then forced myself to slow down. You took my no and carried it somewhere I never agreed to go. And now I have to wonder what else you tell people about me. That last line gutted me in a way the internet never could. I thought about every small story I had repeated to friends for laughs. Moments where she flinched at a sound or went quiet during certain scenes. Nothing with this level of intimacy, I swear, nothing like this. Even as I said it, I knew she had no reason to trust that. She leaned her back against the car and slid down a few inches. I started therapy to get away from the feeling of being watched. Now I know thousands of strangers have a version of my story. She rubbed her forehead like she was pushing back a headache that would not quit. You put me back under a spotlight I never wanted. I sat beside her on the curb without touching her at all. For once I did not reach for her hand or her arm. I just stared ahead and tried to hold my own discomfort without moving it. I deleted the post after a while. It is gone now. The admission felt small compared to the mess already unleashed. She let out a rough breath that sounded half like a scoff. You erase the thing you did, not the damage from it. Her head turned toward me, eyes bright and furious and hurt. You still do not get that I have to carry this even if you move on. In your world it was just a post, in mine it is proof. Proof of what? The question slipped out before I could stop it. She did not hesitate with the answer, not even a second. That when push comes to shove, you will protect your comfort first. And you will wrap it in nice words so you can sleep at night. That one landed and stayed lodged in my chest. I wanted to argue that I had been losing sleep over all this. That I had read every comment and felt sick the entire time. But all of that still circled around me, and how awful I felt. None of it changed what she had walked into that morning. So where does that leave us? I hated how desperate that sounded, but I needed to know. She stared straight ahead, chewing the inside of her cheek. I do not know yet, I just know I cannot unsee this version of you. And I do not know if I can feel safe with that in my head. I swallowed hard and forced myself not to fill the silence. Every instinct screamed at me to promise anything, everything right there. Instead, I let the quiet sit between us like a third person. I can own that I messed this up in a huge way. I do not expect forgiveness, but I want to learn from it. She closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them slower. That is a nice sentence, and I am sure Reddit would love it. But learning means you do not center yourself next time someone is hurting. Her hand shook as she reached for the car door handle. And it means you do not make them a story again, even for yourself. She did not kiss me goodbye or even hug me that day. She slid into the driver's seat and started the engine without looking over. I stepped back automatically as the car pulled away from the curb. My phone felt heavy in my pocket, buzzing with new notifications I refused to check. For the first time, I wondered if posting had not just hurt her but completely ended us. Her text popped up while I was halfway through deleting the app. Are you home? My thumb froze above the screen like I had touched something hot. I typed yeah, then erased it and wrote I am here instead. I hit send and waited for the 3 dots that could end everything. Can I come up? Those 4 words pulled me off the bed faster than any alarm. I stared at my own reflection in the dark phone for a beat. Part of me wanted to tell her no and avoid the verdict. I unlocked the door and left it open anyway, because running felt worse. I cleaned nothing, moved nothing, just paced from wall to wall. Every step felt loud, like the floor could hear how guilty I was. I checked the mirror and hated the panic in my face. I practiced one calm sentence out loud, and it already sounded fake. A knock still came even though the door was cracked, which unnerved me more. She stepped inside without a hug, without brushing my shoulder, nothing. Her bag stayed on her back like she was only passing through. We looked at each other for maybe 2 seconds that felt doubled. Can we sit? Her voice held steady now, which scared me more than shouting. We took our usual spots on the couch with space between us. This time the distance felt like a line I was not allowed to cross. She rested her hands on her knees and kept her eyes on them. I have been thinking about us a lot. The way she stressed us made my chest feel tight. I blurted the first thing that crawled up my throat anyway. Did you end it in your head already? Her mouth twitched like she might smile, then did not. That depends on whether you actually heard what I said before. She lifted her gaze and pinned me in place like a nail. I wanted to jump into some big speech and show new insight. Instead, I forced myself to start smaller and more honest. I have been going back over every second in that bedroom. The way I kept talking after you pulled away. The way I wrote about it like a frustrated customer. She flinched a little at that last phrase but did not interrupt. I hated reading that version of myself in those comments. I hated realizing that version is me, not just a bad day. I shrugged once because my hands did not know where to go. I have not opened Reddit again since you drove off. That is not the part I care about most. She leaned back and crossed one leg over the other slowly. I care about whether you can stop treating this like a missing feature. She said it calmly, like it was a job interview question. I am not a broken gadget, I am a person trying to feel safe. I know that now in a way I did not before. Even as I said it, I knew how weak that could sound. I signed up for a counseling intake yesterday after work. Not a big heroic move, just a place to unpack my own crap. I figured if you are doing the work, I should too. Her eyebrows lifted, not with excitement, more with cautious interest. You are talking to someone about entitlement stuff then. Hearing her use that word pushed heat up my neck again. About why I treat intimacy like a scorecard, yeah. About why your no felt like an attack on me instead of a boundary. She uncrossed her leg and rested her elbows on her thighs. Did the therapist tell you what to say to me today? I shook my head a little too fast and slowed myself down. I have only done paperwork and one quick call, nothing deep yet. This right here is just me trying not to spin the story. She watched me for a moment like she was waiting for the sales pitch. When it never came, her shoulders eased a tiny bit. Here is where I am at after my last session. She laced her fingers together and stared at them like a SCR. I can keep working on what happened to me for me. I am not doing it to unlock some specific sex act for a partner. Hearing that spelled out that clearly knocked the air out of me. If we stay together, that thing might never feel okay in my body. Or it might on a random day, with no pattern and no warning. Either way, it cannot be a project or a debt or a prize. Her words sat between us like a contract with blank lines. The old version of me wanted to negotiate instantly. Ask for timelines, benchmarks, some guarantee that effort would pay off. I literally dug my fingers into my own knees to keep still. That aching urge to barter told me exactly how far I still had to go. So here is the question I need you to answer really straight. She turned fully toward me, knee almost bumping mine. Can you stay in this relationship without counting that as missing? No hints, no jokes, no heavy sighs when we fool around. Can you actually build a life with me if that never happens? My heart started racing for real then, not just anxious background noise. I could feel the old script lining up in my brain again. Say yes, say you do not care, say love is enough. I remembered every comment under my post dragging that exact move. I swallowed and let the silence stretch until it almost hurt. I would miss it, I am not going to lie about that. Her jaw tightened but she did not look away. But I miss you more when you are across a parking lot glaring. I miss being with someone who trusts me not to weaponize their pain. And I hate the version of myself that thinks orgasms are more important than that. She studied my face like she was trying to catch any trace of bullshit. So is that a yes or a no then? I took a breath and counted 3 slow beats in my head. It is a yes to staying and learning how to not obsess over this. And a yes to you never owing me that, even if we hit anniversary number 50. Her lips parted like she had not expected me to go that far. You realize resentment can kill love quietly if you let it grow. I nodded because that fear had kept me up more than once already. That is why I am starting therapy, not to get rid of desire. To get rid of the story that your body exists to solve my frustration. For the first time in days, something in her posture softened. She reached over and touched my hand, just one light tap. If we try again, I need some ground rules from you. No more sex jokes about anything you know I link to what he did. No more surprise conversations about it when we are already half undressed. I agreed before she even finished listing them. I can handle that, I want that structure honestly. She raised one eyebrow like she was testing that last sentence. If you slip, I am walking, I am not debating or explaining. You already got to see what my line looks like when you cross it. That image of her standing by the car with the phone hit me again. Fair, I do not want you to walk, but that is fair. I paused, searching for anything I might be missing. In return, can I ask for something that is not sexual? Her hand stilled on her knee, and she nodded once. If we are intimate in other ways, tell me if you are checking out. Not with a speech, just a word or a tap, something simple. I do not want to be halfway through anything and realize you left mentally. I would rather stop and watch a dumb show than repeat that look on your face. Saying that out loud made my stomach twist, but not from frustration this time. She blinked a little surprised, then let out a slow breath. That is actually a decent request. She squeezed my fingers once, gentle but firm. I can work on staying present or speaking up when I cannot. That benefits me as much as it reassures you. We sat there in a strange quiet that did not feel like before. Not easy, not relaxed, but not hostile either. More like two people who had finally stopped hiding their worst angles. I am still angry about the post, that has not disappeared. But you are at least talking like someone who wants to do better, not just sound better. That distinction landed harder than any insult from strangers online. Because she was right, my whole thing used to be sounding decent. I am going to write an update for that thread eventually. Not to clear my name, just to say I actually heard the feedback. And to tell other guys not to use Reddit as a way around hard talks. Her mouth curved, not quite a smile, more like a tired smirk. Make sure you strip my details out if you do. No hints, no quotes, nothing that leads back to me this time. I nodded fast because that line was beyond non-negotiable. If I ever write about us again, you see it first or it does not go up. She leaned forward then, resting her forehead against mine for a moment. That is the first promise tonight that felt like you thought about consequences. Her breath hit my lips and my entire body screamed for more contact. I stayed still and let her decide how close was safe right now. After a beat, she shifted and pressed a careful kiss to my cheek instead. Okay, here's where we land for now. She stood and glanced around like she was adjusting to the space again. We are not broken up, but we are not magically fine either. We are two people in progress with a big red line we both see. If you can live with that, we keep going, slow and honest. I walked her to the door and did not reach for anything extra. No grab at her waist, no pull toward the bedroom out of habit. She noticed that restraint, I could tell by the quick look she gave me. Text me after your first real therapy session. I want to know what you learn about yourself, not about fixing me. After she left, the room felt weirdly lighter and heavier at once. I picked up my phone and opened the relationship sub one more time. The old post sat in my history with a little trash icon beside it. I removed it not to pretend it never existed, but to stop feeding on it. Then I opened a blank draft and started typing what you are reading now. I am not writing this to ask if I am forgiven. I am not writing this to check if people think I deserve her. I am writing it so the next person who feels cheated by a boundary pauses. Pauses before turning their partner's pain into a group discussion for entertainment. Pauses long enough to ask who is actually paying the price for their frustration.